Hi, I'm Mike Haduck, and today we're in Rome, Italy, and we're looking at the Pantheon. And what's so important about that is it was built before Christ, but then again it burnt down, so they rebuilt it in 126 after the death of Christ. Those pillars they got there came from Egypt. They weighed 60 tons apiece. So they put them on a boat, and they rolled them over here. I'm going to do a little demonstration on how they actually put them up. And we're going to go in and we're going to talk about the Roman concrete. And I got my misgivings about that. And we're going to go in and get a ticket first. And then we'll take a look at it and I'll explain it as we go.
Yeah, this is the ticket line. This is what this looks like from waiting in the ticket line. A little information on these columns is they're 60 tons. And they came from Egypt, and they put them on a boat or a barge, and they rolled them over from Egypt to here. They weigh 60 tons. They are 39 feet tall. You see how they spanned it up there with marble. And this thing was built in 126 AD, but the first one was built in 27 BC before Christ. So that's what we're looking at. They're 5 feet wide. Now in this video, here is a model of the Pantheon. These columns right in here came from Egypt. They weigh 60 ton apiece. Now when the Romans built like this, they would use what they call Lewis pins. And they would push the pins in. They drilled this way and they drilled that way. And they will pick it up and slowly put it down in place. That's called Lewis pins. We're going to talk more about that when we get to the Acropolis. Well, they couldn't do that when they were putting in the Pantheon ones because they were one big solid piece. So how did they do that? They did it this way. They put a piece of granite down first, and you see the cranes. See the pictures of the cranes? The Romans weren't stupid. Then they get this and they put it up like that, and then they take these, they slide them in underneath like that. See that? Here's a little bit evidence of that even from Ephesus. That's an example how you put it in pieces and then put it down and shove it in. That's the standard way to do that. Otherwise you're going to break these on the bottom. But if you go like this and then slide them in, then once you get them in, you could shim it around and move it around so that it'll be straight or where you want it to land. So we'll talk more about that when we get to Athens, but that's the way that was done. Now if you look right here, that's a patch. You see it? Anytime they want to fix something, they dig it out and they patch it. Okay, we're getting a walk in. And you see that seam there? I'm going to talk about that seam. That seam there. I'm going to talk about how they put these on. Now these are the doors, they're original. And here's what I'm suspect about. You see how they got it up there like we're going to see on the inside of the Pantheon? But when you step back, you see a brick arch on top of it. See it? I don't know if you can see that good. Let me step back. See the brick arch? So it looks like it was actually plastered on, and you can see a crack. If you go over here, this is travertine over here, and that might be travertine or marble, I'm not sure. Inside, this is a huge dome, and that's the hole in the middle, and they say that's all out of concrete, Roman concrete. But I'm going to tell you, on the outside, when you look at this thing, they have it covered with lead so no water could touch it. But it did crack. Formerly it was a pagan temple, and then it became a Catholic church, and it still is. If you come here on a Sunday, you can go to a Catholic church mass. And Raphael's buried here, I think. But otherwise you get charged to come in. They just started that about 1.5 years ago. And here's the columns they got holding it up. And the weight is really behind it all. and then it just gets built up. We're going to talk about that. The rain comes right down, right on the floor, and this is not original. They're all saying everything's original. There's some original stuff in here, but and then the rain comes down and there's holes where the water goes in and out of here. You can see how the floor is pitched. Then we're looking at it. The light beams shows true at certain areas at certain times. I'm not too schooled on that. I'm just mostly after the masonry. In the background here you can see the brick. You get up there and you can see where it's plastered like, and they ripped marble off the wall or whatever their facade was. We get down here, let's look at this again. I'm going to show you something. See the seams in here? This bottom piece, let's go back, is not solid. So when they put it on, we'll do a little demonstration. There was something behind that. They laid it on and they shoved this stuff in. So after looking at all that brick, all this facade stuff, including all that stuff up there, I don't know, you can't really get up there, but that's all been kind of recoated and repainted over the years. So don't let them tell you that it's just like perfect. It wasn't. And those stripes up there, those things, they're recessed just to keep the weight down. But that's 5,000 pounds of weight up there. That's Raphael's tomb. These bronze doors are 24 feet high. They're original. Now when they brought these things from Egypt, how do they place them on without chipping this? And that's what I'm going to show you. We get over here, you see the seam there, and then this is a patch. Don't think they didn't patch it. And you see the seam over here. That means all these pieces, they put this up first, then they slid these pieces in on the bottom. That's how they did that. And the roof up there is just shingles or however they do it. So we're walking around the sides of it and we see how it was built with brick and different types of stuff. As they went up, they went lighter. You can see the arches in it. See the arches in it? I don't know if you could see them with this camera. Then they came out and then they went up. And then you can see all the arches again. Then we're walking around the back of the building. Who knows if some of these parts have been added on. But there was different parts of the building. If you look up there, you can see it. Around the back, if you look down here at the bottom, that was the original Roman road down there. That's how far up we are. I'd say 20 feet. From the time it was built. So that's all original right there. When you see stuff like this, when they're restoring it, they just get what they can get and put it together. It's not perfect, but they're preserving it. Again, we're on the other side of the Pantheon. You can see the pillars down there. You can see the brickwork, how they did that. They arched it. They just didn't go across. That's weak. When you arch it, that strengthens the building. And I think they used I'm not sure because I didn't build it, but they used a denser brick than they did up there. And we're on the finished part of the Pantheon. Then we're on the other side of the Pantheon. So we get to go and look and see the full thing. So we're looking at it from here. That's an Egyptian obelisk they brought from Egypt also. But if you could see it from here, which maybe you can't because of the sun. Now we're looking right now on a picture of the roof of the Pantheon. So let's just take this model right here again that I built. That's where I ordered it from. You take this model and right here is the roof of the Pantheon, which is all supposed to be Roman concrete, which I'm very skeptical of. I'm going to do a little demonstration on that. But at one time this was all covered with bronze. And then I heard the Pope ripped it off, if I got that correct. And now it's all covered with lead. so there's no water that touches it. Also, it was in an area of palm trees. Where the palm trees be, it's better for the masonry. So Roman concrete ain't such a big deal as they say. One thing I want to say is I did a video. It's called Rock Facing and Shaping Stones, Part 5. And when I did that, I show you all the different ways to move the stone. Whether it's Lewis pins or they have box Lewis, will pick it up that way. Or sometimes they use straps and how they do that. I got demonstrations on that. But I just want to make sure that you understand that the way and how they did it back in those days, because I actually worked on jobs with the old timers where they did this. So let's go from there, and I'll show you that rock facing and shaping stone, some of the scenes from there. Yeah. But for this demonstration, I got a piece of limestone and I put a hole in that way and I put a hole in this way. You take your Lewis pins on top of the stone, that's 1. Take it over here, that's 2. And then you would get your chain like this, put it through. Now this is just a demonstration, but you get the idea. You hook it up, you hook your chain up, and you pick your stone up. And that's how they would pick a lot of them stone up when they were building the cathedrals and everything. They're called Lewis pins. See that? Lewis pins. They also have another type of pin which is called a box Lewis, or it could be called a stone Lewis, or it could be called a pocket Lewis. And this was what they would do, was they would drill a hole in these big columns. They take this apart, and they stick it in a column, and they bolt it together. And when they picked it up, it'd pick up to 5 tons of stone, just this one here. Here's another one that he has in his shop. It hasn't been used in centuries, I think. But that's another way to do it. Now we're gonna go look at a little book where they sell some of this stuff. So while we're down here at Thomas Eddy's, we're going to look at this book about stone lifting. Here's an example of those Lewis pins. And right here it tells you the capacity, up to 2,400 pounds. They also have these curb lifting squeeze things. We have it over here too. And they got some lifting clamps. Over here, they have some other kind of, this is a vacuum. You've seen me do that out in Jersey. So I want to turn you on to this so that you got a good idea. Over in here, they have the straps, if you ever see them moving with the straps.
Well, these inch boards would be alright, we just double up on them.
Now if you go on the internet and you look up Indiana Limestone Handbook, there's a lot of information in there about working with limestone for architects and engineers and masons. If you go to page 44 and you get in there, it's going to show you about handling the limestone. You're going to see the Lewis pins and the clamps and things like that. So that helps out. Now I had to go through that because there's so many people saying, we don't know how they did it, it was aliens and all this other stuff. Well, that's the way they did it. Now we're going to talk about the concrete roof. That's the next thing on the list. Okay, we're going back to this model and we are going to do about the roof. Now here's the roof. Now there's different type of arches. There's round arches, segmented, flat arch, jack arch. All those kind of things. You can look them up for yourself. But this is basically what they call a barrel arch. Some people call that. They make a lot of different names up and they keep making new names up. But that is a barrel arch. And these inside were, some people call them coffers. Could be something else. But we're going to kind of redo this. I'm going to do a little example of the way I think they did it. So here we go. All right, we know our different types of arches, and we are going to do a little demonstration here on how they built the Pantheon. Now, it's just like anything else. You're doing a brick job, you're doing a stone job, it all kind of works out the same. So we're going to kind of do it the same way as the way I would build arches and the way I was taught. So we're going to do this, go around the whole ring. Now everybody thinks when they built the Pantheon, they had concrete trucks and guys were down there mixing all day and all night to complete it. But I don't believe that. This is all just common sense, the way you would do it today and the way you would do it yesterday. So this is regular Portland cement, just like they say they're using Roman concrete. I'm very suspect about that. I don't believe that at all. One of the rules of thumb is if it has palm trees, it's better for the masonry. So what do you do when you go around Rome? See palm trees. Of course the concrete's going to last a long time. You go to Pennsylvania with it, it ain't going to last a long time. The water's going to get in there, the frost is going to get in there and knock the heck out of it. So this is the way basically we would build an arch. And they would have their designs in there, of course, pre-made. We're not going to have to do that. So we do this, and that's our circle. That's our arch circle, we'll call that. And then we just go around. Should make that a little wetter so it kind of flows. I'll make this a little wetter. I'm going to do another one. Same thing. Go all the way around. Same thing. Well, we're completing our second row. And the first, see the way they did it thick on the bottom. Why did they do that? Because they wanted the weight. They wanted the weight to back it up. That's all. Same thing. You ain't worried about that. Now we're going to go with smaller stuff. Like this. Now we just fill that in on top. See? Just fill it in. That's all they did. No big secret. Fill it in. Portland cement. They call it Roman concrete. Well, I'll tell you what. Get a lot of controversy from the lime guys. But they don't work in my state. And I'm not a big fan of lime. No one, you can't even buy it in my area. Okay, so we got that one in. I'm going to fill that up. You can see how it's coming together. It don't look right yet, but it will. We'll win. You know, when you're doing stonework, sometimes you got to know how to corbel it out. You don't teach you that at school, how to corbel things out. You got to work with old masons. Old masons knew all that stuff, especially from the old country. They knew all that stuff. They don't teach that. It's like someone's cooking a pie here or something. Okay, what we're going to do is kind of let that set, and then we'll come back later and we just get a little sponge and go around it, make it look a little bit more professional. And after we get all done with that, we're just going to let it dry, just like any other masonry project. like that. You could add some stuff in there. Okay, this is 3 days later. Let's see. Oh, look at that. It fell right out. That's good. Ming Dynasty plate. We don't need that. Throw that away. Let's see if this plastic comes out. And there's our coffers. That's all set. Let's look in here. Well, it's not caving in. And that's the top of our Pantheon. Here's our model. I don't know if it looks much like it. Let's see if it's any good. Test here, see if it's going to cave in. Nope, didn't cave in that way, didn't cave in that way. It's good that way. So these barrel arches, they're pretty good. That's that. Passes the test. Well, that's my video basically on the Pantheon, and I always said the Pantheon is somewhere between the pyramids and the Empire State Building, and it was unreinforced concrete. That means it didn't have any rebar or anything else supporting it except that barrel arch itself. Now, I had a video out, should I use rebar or wire in concrete? And I ripped a lot of concrete out in my time, and rebar, when it gets moist inside, and everybody says, oh, concrete is waterproof. No, it ain't. It absorbs water, and it gets in there, and it busts it apart when you use rebar or metal or wire mesh, depending on what you're doing. One thing about everybody saying, oh, Roman concrete, Roman concrete. First of all, they covered that Roman concrete. If it was so much waterproof and so good, why did they have to cover it with bronze or lead? Because it contains water. And Rome, when you're in Rome, you're in the Mediterranean climate. It's kind of half dry, and at the same time it's warm. They got palm trees. Where the palm trees be, it's better for the masonry. If they had that dome in Pennsylvania with our winters, every year, in 100 years, that would have caved in if it wasn't covered. So that's the way I look at it. Now, when I was going through the Roman Forum, I seen this little section here about Roman concrete. I'm going to play that for you. Here we go. Let's look under the foundation of this arch. You know, they have different stones as they used for a foundation as they went down. So they layered it. They filled it in with junk. Stones that they didn't use anymore broke up. And whatever they had at the time, that's what they used. Now, when you see that, when I was a kid, back in the early 60s, I'd go up to the quarries with my dad. They were still up there. They'd get orders, and they'd cut the stone up there, and there'd be chips laying all over. They'd shovel the chips into a bucket, maybe put it in the back of a truck, and take it somewhere. That was the gravel in them days. They didn't have, like, gravel plants. You didn't go... We got mine rock when we were kids. We go over where they were mining, and we used mine rock. You didn't go buy gravel. Well, the same thing. They loaded it up with the wagons. They took it down there. They laid it down. They put that gravel in. That's your Roman concrete. So that's the way I'm looking at it anyway. I don't see what the big deal is about Roman concrete. If it was in Pennsylvania, it'd never last. Now, when you go to the Roman Forum, here's a picture of it. You see the same thing. It's coffers. So the Pantheon wasn't the only building they did that. And if you look above it, you see the arch. So I think they arched the whole thing like that. And then the Pantheon, they did the barrel arch. So I don't see what the big deal is, why they're saying it's such a big deal. So that's it. That's my video on the Pantheon. Thanks for watching. I'm Mike Haduck. I'll see you next video.